Okay. So I hope you had the chance to read the chapter one.
Yeah, but quite challenging to digest.
It's okay. It's okay. Uh, Chapter one as well as the chapters on standard setting and item analysis.
5, 6. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. We will focus on the important ones today, inshallah.
Okay.
Uh, what I'll do first is what we'll do is we go to chapter one first. All right. And then from that we will discuss item analysis. And this will be our first session, hopefully within 1 hour plus or 2 hours. Okay, we'll have a short break. I hope we can have a short break in the middle, and then
Okay.
we'll go to standard setting. Will that be okay?
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Jamila has made it two sessions, one after the other. So we'll see whether we can survive. Okay. For this chapter, let's focus. I think we'll look at table. So this is the overall components. They call it components now. If you remember, if you read the introduction, these are the components of a test development process. You want to develop a test, you want to develop an examination. These are the steps that these are the components that you go through. They mentioned that in the first edition, they put it steps. The word steps. Huh?
Mm.
But they realize that these things sometimes they occur together. Sometimes you have to bring something forward or put something after some. So they say it's quite flexible. So if in the second edition they made it into components, test development components. Okay, so we'll go through one by one. Is it clear for you guys?
Yes, can see clearly.
Can see clearly. Okay. All right. Okay. So the first component, which from what I understand, should be the first step actually, is the overall plan. Okay, the overall plan is when you sit down and develop a detailed plan for the entire test. All right. I think when you come into a school, a medical school, these things already are in place.
Mm.
Apa ni? So I don't think you will face the challenge of coming up with an overall plan from scratch. I do not know whether later on, but maybe in hindsight, when you go back to your uh, respective institutes, now that you know what are the components in what are supposed to be there, perhaps you can aim to maybe improve things. Okay. So I'm sure when you go back to your respective institutions, all of these things are there here and there. Maybe they are not so well organized. Maybe they are well organized. So you have a look, and whatever you can improve, you try to improve. Whatever you think there are strengths of your system, try to maintain them, and so on and so forth. Okay. So actually, this overall plan, you go through all the other steps in, let's say, one session. So like a troubleshooting or uh, so detailed plan, entire test, information on all test components. Usually you will have many components like your paper-based test, and you have your clinical test, uh, and how are they supposed to be outlined, and you revise back the contribution, the weightage, etc., etc. Okay, so this is during the step, and and often these things are discussed either in the curriculum committee or the academic committee, or if you have an assessment unit or committee of your own. Okay. And the aim is to, like we discussed, the specific methods to be used to evaluate the validity of all intended test quantification. So we are looking at all these things, and we are also thinking that uh, how can we make sure that our test is valid. Therefore, we look at the evidence. Okay, where to compile or where to collect the evidence for our assessment. Okay, so that's the overall plan.
Dr. Fuad,
Yes.
can we consider this like overall plan same like constructive alignment, or it's
Yeah,
different?
yes, that's it's not the same. Constructive alignment, thinking about constructive alignment is done in this step.
Oh, part
And
of it. I see.
yes, part of it. Thinking about it, part ensuring that it happens. Uh,
Mm.
so this should be the thing that we included in this step. Uh, okay. Uh, another big another place where you look at the alignment is when, for example, when you are due for your curriculum review, then maybe one of the things you can do is to ask yourselves, okay, how's the alignment for our examinations? Is it okay? What can we do to improve it and things like that? And I think the some of the following components are part of this overall plan. So there's another component is domains definition and claim statement. This is a bit detailed. I do not think even in USM here we do not sit down and specifically think about this part. Name and define the domain to be measured. We always assume that okay, we know what's going to be measured already. Huh? But if we do this step specifically, I think we'll be much clearer. What actually are we measuring? What in this test? What is it? Problem solving? Whatever application of knowledge in this exam? What is it in this OSCE? Is it clinical skills and things like that? So we name and define the domain. Okay. So far in USM, I don't think anyone has asked about this. Even myself, uh, because when I came, things are already there. Historically, my predecessors have already uh, constructed the system, the exam. So sometimes we just go on as usual. Like what we write in the note, sometimes we just say continue same.
Continuous plan.
Yeah, yes. Okay. So if you wanna go into detail, this clear statement of the claims, everything. This is in the chapter on validity, if you recall, especially Keynes' validity framework. Okay. Okay. Content specifications. So one of the things that we need to be sure of is our sampling. All right. And when we say develop content specifications, it basically what we're saying is we look at our blueprint. Okay, this is the what for me the most important things that we look at in this step. Okay, for USA, usually early in the year we have this blueprint workshop where we go through all the phases, and for each phase we develop one master blueprint, and uh, which everybody is there during the workshop. All the block coordinators, all the course coordinators, and the content experts from each department. So we sit down and we come up with this blueprint. And sometimes we use this blueprint more than 1 year, 2 years. Then we will make a new blueprint if necessary. Okay. So once you have that, questions can change, but the the parts of the blueprint, it remains quite standard, quite similar. So from year to year, sometimes we just change a few things only. Okay, so once you have a blueprint, then you can use it for quite some time. All right. Uh, so okay, content comment from Dr. Urush. We don't even consider this. All right. Yeah, in most places we don't. So we must now consciously think about things. Okay, and item development component. Don't forget about this. Very important. Uh, Again, usually things are already there. The vetting. There. This is where important issues is the item writing. It is rare that you get the services of a professional item bank. I know of some universities, they actually buy a curriculum from a company or a professional supplier. So that includes questions, items, and in an item bank. But what is commonly practiced in all medical schools is that the faculty or the lecturers write their own questions. Am I right?
Yes.
Uh, Dr. Ashraf, Dr. Farhana, Dr. Urush, is that the practice done in your place as well?
Yeah.
This one I'm not sure about UMS, Dr. Fuad. Need to find out.
Okay. But that's the commonest practice because that's
Mm-hmm.
the number one. The one who does the teaching is the one who writes the assessment items. Uh, but there's a danger there because sometimes you teach to the test. What was the term? So we need to be aware of that. And secondly, it's cheaper because you don't need to buy questions or whatever. Okay. So item writing, the issue is training. Training lecturers to write proper MCQs, proper essays, following established guidelines. Guidelines are there available. If you just search in the internet, you will find item writing guidelines. For example, a good one in for single best answers would be the National Boards of Medical Examiners, the US one. Now is in their third edition, I think. You can download it for free. Uh, and so many other guidelines. The problem is to make the lecturers who write the items aware of these guidelines and follow them. And this involves faculty development. Development, usually in the form of workshops. I think nowadays you have to think about online workshops, uh, coming up with guides and things like that. Okay. I am very, very, very sure that once you finish this masters, you go back to your institutions. One of the things that you need to do is to have item writing workshops to train your faculty, your colleagues to write proper items. So these are just the big points under each step. If you want to go for details, you can read the the summary. Actually, they each of these components are actually explained in one chapter or two chapters or three chapters in the actual book.
Oh, so this is just a
Uh,
summary.
just a summary and they point, let's
Something like that.
say, explain further in this chapter, explain further in
Mm.
that chapter. So However, I think it's a good summary so that you can get an overall. And some of them we have already discussed in our classes. Okay, so is Ashraf here?
Mm, not yet. Maybe look at his children. His wife working.
All right. So item development, item writing, and also what we use, what we call the vetting process. Vetting means having someone else look at questions. Usually, a committee or a group, a team of people will look at questions. What usually is done, at least in USM, is vetting that is done at several levels. One is at the department level. So each question author will have their own departments, and therefore, okay, Ashraf, we just continue this item development step, and we are talking about vetting now. This is also part of the item development process, and vetting is editing lah. I mean, reviewing questions, and I was just saying in USM we do it at three levels. One is the department level, where the emphasis is on content. So let's say some one lecturer is part of the musculoskeletal block, so he's from the orthopedics department. So he has been requested to make X number of questions for the musculoskeletal block. So he writes them, but they usually, or we request that the questions are reviewed at the department level. So he shows it to his colleagues or whatever, and the emphasis on the content. Okay, and then it goes to the committee, the central committee level, examination committee, or rather the curriculum committee. We have phase 1 committee, phase 2 committee. Okay, and here the vetting committee comprises of the phase chairperson as well as a representative from medical education and a few content experts who are permanent members of that committee. So if it's phase 1, usually we want the basic sciences people to be there, as well as the 1 or 2 clinicians. And then we go through all the questions, and even vetting now, you can download or find guidelines what to look at actually. The content, if it's SBA, what should be there, what and things like that. Okay, and it's good that people who are not involved in the writing as well as non-content experts look at the questions, because let's say you are an orthopedic specialist. When you write questions, sometimes you think this is an easy question because you've been dealing with it day in day out. That's what you do every day. Okay, when someone else who is not a content expert looks at it and say, hey, this is difficult, and say, no, it's not difficult. Why do you think this is bread and butter? You must know this. But they say, but this is for third year. This is not for final year. So that's when that's where the emphasis is on at the committee level, at the phase level. Okay, and so we look at does this follow the blueprint or not? Is the level of difficulty appropriate? Technical wise, does it follow all the guidelines, etc. And there's a final brief or overall vetting done by the deputy dean of academic. All finished questions who are already in the booklet form goes through him, and he just, I think, one of his jobs actually. So he will go through all, and he will mark things which he wants to query, and it will be returned back if there's any queries. If not, then it will the questions will go to be to the safe, to be printed, and to be kept in the strong room until the day of the administration. Okay. So that's the vetting and the two important things in here: item writing and vetting. All right. And another component is, so just now, blueprint. Blueprint. So we won't be talking about it in very much detail after this. If you want to have a reference, you can look at the article which I've put up in the, right. So that's quite a recent guide. Dr. Rose, I'll give you also the link to the articles later. Okay. And test design and assembly. Okay. Ideally, uh, new questions need to be tested. Okay. And here also in this step, based on test specifications, again, based on the blueprints, based on the how many questions we need for this kind of exam, how many, and things like that. But one of the things, new questions, actually, ideally, I know this is very ideal situation. If you have new questions, there's twice new already. They need to be tested first, sort of piloted, pilot. And actually, in your exam, majority of the questions should be bank questions, which we have already known the quality of the question, the difficulty is good, difficulty index, discrimination index is good. So we bank it, and then in the future we reuse. So maybe about 60% are bank questions, and 40% are new ones. So then this is like a pilot for new questions, because we do not know their difficulty, and it shouldn't be majority of them are new questions and only a small part bank questions. But what usually happens is that majority of questions are new questions, and only when we cannot come up with the required number, then we say, okay, we will look at the past year questions and take one or two. Okay. However, having said that, that does mean that we need to have a good item bank in place, which where we can a good item bank with enough questions, with enough items inside to make this possible. Okay. If not, then we usually this is what happens, and majority of our questions are new questions which have not been tried out yet.
Okay.
Okay. So far, okay. Ashra, any questions?
Dr. Fuad,
Yeah.
I got a question. Just is there any example of practical? How do these tests happen? The pilot, for example, is are we recruiting lecturers to answer it, or
No.
uh,
Okay. If it is MCQ, for example, multiple true false, it is included in the exam paper. But because it's only a small number, so it's quite theoretically it's okay. We can put it in the actual examination paper, but a small number are new questions. They have already been vetted. The technical aspect is okay. Content wise, everybody agrees they are suitable, not too difficult, not too it's relevant for blah 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 blah. Only thing is that we have not tried it out actually, the actual tried out. So we include it in the question paper, the
in the
actual
real
question
exam?
paper. Yes.
Okay.
So that's the but that's why I say actually the new questions should be the minority, not the majority of questions.
Do we have
Uh,
any not to say benchmark, how many percent
any
we
how
cannot
many percent?
exceed, we cannot exceed
Ah,
more than any
yeah,
specific.
I would 60-40 should be okay. 60-40, 70-30. Ah, but feasibility, the reality is that we don't have enough bank questions,
Mm,
especially schools which do not employ a good bank system, item banking system.
see.
Ah, therefore, the majority of questions are usually new questions, and it's we need to see how they perform, and then after the exam we know the item in difficulty, etc., but they do not get stored in a properly, then in the future reusing them is like reusing a new question also. So because people are not aware of how should we store the question, which what kind of questions are good, what kind of questions are not good, need to be repaired and things like that. So yeah, so even here in USM, we still thinking of still designing our question bank, and thinking of to purchase because they're not cheap, quite expensive. The good ones. Okay,
Okay.
all right,
But I'm just wondering,
yeah.
uh, yesterday after we had the examination with the student, is
Mm-hmm.
there any feedback from the student regarding our questions? I mean, in the real practice,
And the
because
real practice, in the
yeah.
real practice, okay, I only know what's in USM. We do give
Mm-hmm.
uh, Google form links to our students after each exam, and
Mm.
we look at the feedback and we note them. We I make a report, give to the TDA, and sometimes it get presented in the board meeting. Yes, we do have a look.
Okay.
Uh, okay. If you if you want to look at an sort of like an ideal kind of feedback system, there's one article quite many years ago by the people from Maastricht. There they even they have after each exam there's a grace period, maybe 1 or 2 days. Students can complain whatever question, and they will have a look at it. If the students are correct, they will do uh, either increase or whatever the marks or whatever. And if I'm not mistaken, even the answer key is posted, and students can look at the answer key and protest if this is not relevant or whatever. But I don't think uh, I don't think sometimes they go, I don't know. uh, you try to look for it in the internet. It's by Schuworth and his colleagues lah. Schuworth, I think Vleuten. They describe the. If I can find it again, I'll put it up in the portal. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
all
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Okay, so test production. Uh, Test production is where we compile the questions who which are already vetted, already sort of cleared all the hurdles. Should be by this time only the production of the compiling, formatting, printing, and then keeping it in somewhere safe until the date of the exam. Okay, and that includes online examinations nowadays, especially in the COVID period, to keep and when to upload questions into the online portal. Uh, are you guys familiar with e-learning portals? Do like what we are using, the
Okay.
Moodle.
Yes.
Do you have similar systems in your universities?
Haven't explore.
Haven't explored yet.
Yeah.
Ashraf?
The same lah. I haven't really explored.
Okay. What about Dr. Urush? Do you have e-learning portals? What we call LMS, Learning Management Systems. Maybe not sure. Okay, never mind. So, in the recent months, I find myself and our colleagues also finding that we have to learn how to implement quality control procedures in online examinations now. How to make sure the vettings are more often nowadays done online. How to make sure they are secure. Oh, Dr. Urush is having problems. She told me that she's having problems. How to make the online vetting secure, how to make the when after you finish, then you have to upload questions into the online portal, how to do it in a secure way. A lot of lecturers do not know how to upload, so we have to have training sessions, blah blah blah. So now it's becoming something that a necessary skill, handling these online things. Okay. Right. So that's the test production part. Usually, I think you also will have somewhere in your institution a strong room. If accreditation teams come, they will want to see. Do you have a strong room? Where
Bilik
you
ke
so bilik kebal? Yes, bilik
Hmm.
kebal. Usually in English we call it strong room. Things like that. So I have a suspicion. I think both of you will be very much involved in this kind of things later on.
Of course.
Yes, of
Okay.
course.
Uh, and then test administration. Test administration, the actual day, we must make sure it's still the same thing. Quality procedures to make sure that apa ni, all are administered in a standard way and ensuring that the environment is okay during the assessment. All things which are related to content irrelevant variants, like the environment, the uh, again the security, who takes the questions from the strong room to the examination hall, who distributes, uh, and are the invigilators aware of the rules? How late can a candidate be? If they are more than 15 minutes late, can they be admitted into the hall? How soon can they go out from the hall? They have to know all those things. And now in USM also we have another headache, which is we have two campuses. So we must make sure both campuses they take the exam at the same time, so we have to adjust the time and so on and so forth. Now during the COVID, everybody's online, so it's much uh, in that way, in that sense, it's less of a problem. But now online exams, we have to think what about security again, and issue of online proctoring, which is like an invigilator but done online. It turns out this online proctoring is very big business, especially in the West. They use software, very complicated software. The students have to turn on their video cameras during the examination because they use laptops. And this software can detect eye movement, can detect facial movement and whatever. So we can suspect who is trying to cheat. They can block the laptop from opening Google. So many things. But I think USM is just in the process as a whole, not only the medical school, but as a whole is in the process of purchasing this software. But for us in PPSP, what we do is that during the exam, we ask candidates to turn on to log in using WebEx. So and then when they have logged in, someone will manage a group of candidates. Let's say there are 100 students, so there will be 10 facilitators. Each facilitator will look after 10 candidates. So all the candidates in their group will log in the WebEx and turn on the camera, the video camera. So the facilitator will sit there and monitor the candidates while they're doing. They're not supposed to discuss with anyone or things like a very low tech kind of monitoring lah. Because
Need more people.
need more
Gila
people.
time.
Yes, we cannot block. We cannot know whether they open the Google or not. And things like that. But at least it will discourage some of them, not all of them. Okay.
What if there is an internet connection problem?
Yeah. How to
Okay.
ask that?
Internet connection problem and things like that. We must we must think about it. But one thing is that we tell the candidates ensuring a good internet line is your responsibility, not our responsibility. Uh, so we tell them beforehand, you must have a line which is 5 megabits per second at least. So they can test using a application. They test, and if your house does not, then you must go and find something somewhere which has this thing. So we give them what kind of laptop, how many megabytes RAM, what software it should be there, blah blah blah. And some of them even take the exams inside their cars, which they say has better line or whatever. So and Alhamdulillah, during the recent exams, the disruptions were very minimal. So students know that they have to find a stable line, so they do that beforehand. They go and find somewhere place. So it was not as we anticipated. So very minimal kind of disruption. And then, yeah. So that's the test administration part. The scoring, okay. Scoring is getting the marks into the system. Okay. So quality control policy and procedure should be there. For select type questions, selected response questions, what we can do include like this step, key verification step, where we make sure after we get the MCQ papers, we scan first time and we look at the data to see whether there's any problem or not during the scanning of the data. Are there any mistakes in the key? And things like that. If things are okay, then we say, okay, we accept the marks. If things are not okay, then sometimes we will remove some questions and remark, or we change the key from true to false, and we remark or change the key from A to B, B to C, whatever. Then we remark. And so for essays, there are certain steps involved. I think we have discussed these things when we have had the classes on each of these instruments. Actually, all of this, the main aim is to reduce error or reduce CIV, reduce mistakes in the entry, reduce all those things. Okay. And cut scores. So now we have administered the exam. We have got the marks. The question is, how much is enough? How much or what is the percentage of the mark that we can say they are competent? All right. So who determines that? And is it defensible? What if someone complains and say, no, I should pass? and things like that. So this is the area of standard setting, which we will go into a bit more detail. Okay, standard setting. There are two things: standard setting strategies, standard setting approaches or methods. So we will look at both. And then test score reports. Actually, we have to we have to come up with reports after the exams. And if you at least read in this chapter the short description, there are actually a few types of reports based on the requirements. But usually here, we present the results in the board meetings. What usually happens, right? So what kind of reports should we present during the board meeting and things like that? Have a look in the description below. Okay. Oh, sounds like YouTube. All right. Read the description below. Okay. Test security is one issue that we need to think about, because if questions leak, then that's another construct irrelevant variance. If the marks are high but does not mean that they are competent, this is because the question has been leaked. Okay, so what can we do uh, to ensure security of exam questions and things like that? It has happened in we even in our institution many years back. We have caught a few people leaking out questions. At that time, many years back, I was just a trainee. It turned out the staff involved in setting up the OSCE and he took photographs. And then I think he was friends with the students. I don't know whether he was selling it or whatever. I don't know. But he took photographs, and the students got hand of the photographs. And one of our lecturers knew that actually in the photograph, if you know how to look, each photograph has this identifier which tells from which camera they come from. That's how we managed to pinpoint the person. So many things can happen actually. Yeah? So you must have this security in mind. That was many years back lah. And lastly, test documentation. Okay, so this things is important as well. Okay, what to report, technical reports, usually talking about validity, and accreditation people are usually very interested in this kind of things. Show me your proof. So if you have this handy, then but it shouldn't be just for accreditation lah. So because accreditation is one form of have a steering effect also. Yeah? It makes the lecturers behave in a certain way.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we tell lecturers, we have to do this because the accreditation. So sometimes sometimes we use it as an excuse. Okay. So those are the steps in a nutshell. We will focus on where's item analysis. Item analysis is part of this one.
Test production, is it?
Beg your pardon?
On test production.
And not production. Item analysis happens after the exam.
Oh, after the exam.
Then
discriminatory and after the exam.
discrimination index, difficulty index. All right. So we will be talking about this as well as this one in more detail. Okay, but please don't forget the other parts. All this are supposed to be there when we set up examinations. Okay, so if you are later, when you have a bit more free time, please have a look at the descriptions in detail for each of these For each of these 12 steps, they explain in more detail. Okay. And actually, this is part of a very thick book, which is the reference for examinations. Actually, I have the PDF if you're interested. Okay. For this one,
Can share
I
that
just
part.
yeah,
Can share. Might be
uh,
useful. It
might be
maybe
useful
during
later.
lesson time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I just extracted the chapter one only from for our class this time.
Okay.
Okay. So we will go to what part first? Item analysis. Ah, for item analysis, um, the idea is because the word is item means question. So you analyze the questions one by one and see what kind of data can we get from this. So what is our expectation of an item? How does it function? Uh, the underlying expectation for all kind of questions is that uh, good students can answer them and poor student or rather poor students cannot answer them. That's the underlying thinking. Whether it's correct or not, that's another thing. But for item analysis, that's what we are looking for. Okay. Good meaning, what do I mean by good? Good meaning high performing, those who get high marks, not just for that particular question, but for the overall exam. Huh? So you have a list of after the exam, the students will have marks, right?
Yeah.
The overall marks. So we rank the marks from the highest down to the lowest. Oops. Okay. So those at the high top, these the top of the list is the good performing students. Okay. Those in the bottom is the poor performing students. And for some reason, they take upper 27% and bottom 27%. That's the definition. So this group is the good group. This group is the poor group.
It's a fixed number to for 27.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay. I will tell you later how to use this 27.
Yeah.
Why 27? Okay, the answer seems to be that you want it is a compromise of two things. Okay. A, you want these groups to be as far apart as possible. Okay, so in that case, we might take the top 10% and bottom 10% because and then they're very far from each other, right? But at the same time, B, you want the number of students in each group to be as many as possible so that your calculations become accurate. You want the numbers here. So it seems that the compromise, if you want as many students, why not take top 50%, bottom 50%, right?
Yeah.
So it seems that the the compromise lies somewhere in 27. According to some statistical workout or whatever. Uh,
Understand.
okay, right. So So this is the assumptions. And how do we know this? That's we look at the two indices, the two basic indices, the index, which are, what are the two index? If you can recall,
Study index and difficulty index.
yeah. What was the first one?
Discriminatory index and difficulty index.
Discriminatory index.
Oh, discriminatory
Fine.
index.
Discriminatory or discrimination index and difficulty index. Okay. What is Ashraf? Do you understand what is discrimination index?
Discriminatory index discriminate between the student and bad student, is it? I mean,
The poor students.
the poor student, yeah.
Or we say the high performers and the low performers.
The poor
To
student.
be, so discrimination means the higher the discrimination, the more you for example, let's go back to this. Oops, sorry. This group, these two groups. Okay. This is the good group, high performers. This is the bad group. Uh, I do not know. I mean, these words sometimes good, bad, poorly performing. Is like it's like a stigma, right? So just think this is in terms of the exams only. Yeah, we're not saying they are bad students, okay, or good students. This is just okay. So a highly discriminatory question is where more of the good group will be able to answer that question and less of. So you ask one question, let's say in this group there are 100 students and in this group also 100 students. They should be the same number. Okay. So 27% equals 100 students here. 27% equals 100 students here. Okay. So you ask one question, question one. Okay. 90% of students from this group were able to answer it, whereas only 10% of students from this group were able to answer it. So we say that this question is highly discriminating. The good ones, no. Highly discriminating. The good ones know the answer, and the bad ones do not know the answer. Right? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I remind me to look at the chat because Dr. Urush is making comments. Sometimes I forgot to have a look. Okay. So we go back to the discrimination. Whereas a poorly discriminating question or item would be the same number, or there's not much difference between the good group and the bad group. Both can answer that question, or both cannot answer that question. Same. All right. Can you imagine that situation? Maybe 40% of the upper group can answer that question, and also 40% here. So the discrimination will be 0. Right? So we are saying, this question cannot discriminate between good and bad students. Even the bad students are also able to answer this question. Okay. And sometimes you will see, you ask one question, more from this group were able to answer. Maybe 60% here, and only 30% here were able to answer. And then that one you will have a negative discrimination. So now you start to wonder, what's happening here?
Wrong
Why are the
question?
good ones?
Or
Yeah.
is it possible wrong questions?
Yeah. So you have to think of the possibilities. Number one, is the answer key wrong? Sometimes it was B, but technical error, the answer key was put in as C. That's one possibility. The other possibility is the question ambiguous? The wording was not clear. It can mean this or it can mean that. And usually the ones who think about this are the good students. They say, oh, this means, there's a trick here. They actually not, that doesn't mean, it means like this, it means like that. Whereas the poor students, they just look at it once, they just fire away. So it points to the quality of the questions, maybe in question, maybe the at fault, or maybe there was a mistake in the. So now we know from the data. Oh, let's have a look at this question. Okay, how do we calculate this? In the old days, before the use of computers, exactly they use this 27%. What they do is that if let's say let's assume there are 100 students. Okay, so you 100 students, 100 students. So you administer the exam. Let's say a multiple choice question, single best answer, and you get the marks. Okay. So you rank the students from those who get the top marks until the ones who get the low marks, or highest to lowest marks. All right. And then you create the groups. You take the good group, so the top 27% and the bottom 27%. So there are 100 students here. So how many students are there in the good group?
27.
27.
27, right? So if there are 200,
54.
54 students, right? So another 27 students here. We ignore this middle part. Okay. Okay. So when we have this information, we now go question by question. Question 1, question 2, question 3. Let's take question 1. So for question 1, then what we do is that we will look the good group, the top group. How many of the students from the top group get the question correct, and we minus from how many students. This is the top group. Okay, this is top group. And how many students from the bottom group? The bottom group got the item correct. Top minus bottom. Let's say for this particular question, 20 students got the answer correct, and 10 students in the bottom group got the item correct. Okay. And we divide that over the number of students in a group. How many?
100.
Group
In a group, 27.
27. Okay. So you get 10 over 27. What's that? Anyone who went to the Kumon class?
0.37.
0.37.
Using calculator.
Okay. I thought you went to Kumon. Okay. So we say the discrimination index is 0.37. So it's positive, meaning overall the good group is answering it better than the poor group. Okay,
So let's say if
so the
negative, then we
range,
cannot divide.
yeah, beg your pardon?
If let's say the answer is let's say um less student from the top minus the
Yes.
student at the bottom, then we get
Okay.
negative answer. We
Yes.
cannot divide the negative answer, right?
Okay. We make it negative lah. Let's say is the
Oh,
other way around. 10 students. Hey, what's happened here? All
10
right.
minus 20.
10 minus 10 students here can answer, but 20 can answer here. So it becomes
Negative
negative
10
Oh, then
10
negative
divided
10.
by
over
27.
27 minus
Negative
0.37. Meaning, if you get a negative result, meaning more of the poor students are answering this correctly compared to the good students. So we start to wonder why. So the range is from, what's the range? What's the maximum mark? What's the maximum discrimination which we can get?
1,
Maximum 1.
1. Okay,
27 out of
because
27.
yeah, let's say all students in the good group were able to answer. None of the students here can answer. So it's 27 minus 0 over 27, right? So we get
Yeah.
1.
Hmm.
So the range is from 1 to,
Negative 1.
Minus 1.
yeah, minus 1. Because in this case, none of the students in the good group can answer, and all of the poor students can answer. So we get a negative 1. So the range is 1, and if you get a 0, meaning almost equal performance,
Equal.
both okay, and negative is more of the poor students are able to answer compared to the good students. Okay, so we expect our all our items should have a positive discrimination index, and a good discrimination index is taken as 0.2 and above. Is good. Okay, this is according to some experts. They say 0.2 and above. Okay. uh any questions so far?
So far clear.
But then negative 1 is quite impossible,
Negative
right?
shouldn't
Negative
be
1.
there, but it happens.
Oh, it's happened.
Yeah, I will show you an actual item analysis after this.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, right. So how what about this difficulty index then? What is difficulty index? This is much simpler. Farhana pula.
Number of the candidates who answer correctly. But
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, but
there's no, we not comparing between good and bad groups.
yes,
Mm.
yes. Here
We're comparing
overall,
the questions.
is a very simple index. Is how many students got it correct.
Mm.
Okay, so the range is Farhana.
Range.
What's the range of the
This
index?
one I cannot remember it.
No. What's the possible range?
Oh, possible range.
Ah,
Mm. Not sure.
what would be the lowest value of the index? The lowest possible value is 0, isn't it?
0. Okay.
0 is when
Nil answer. No answer.
nobody can answer, nobody got it correct. Until
100.
100.
what's the highest value?
100
Is it?
answer.
100 if you use percent. If you use decimal, it will be 0 to 1.
1.
Oh,
Okay. Meaning if 0, nobody got it right. Let's say you get the difficulty index is 0.5, meaning 50% of the students got it right.
okay.
If 0.9, meaning 90% of the candidates got it right. All right. So actually, people have pointed out this is a misnomer. It's not the difficulty index. Because why? It can get confusing because the higher the number, the easier it is. Not the more difficult. Somehow this is the convention, so we use it. Okay. So if you get a question with a difficulty index of 0.2 and another one is 0.8, which one is easier?
0.8.
0.8.
0.8. So you might get confused because here is difficulty index. You might you might think that the higher the number, the more difficult it is, right?
Yeah, understand.
So please remember the definition. Therefore, you won't get confused. The lower the index, the more difficult is the question. So what's the link between difficulty and discrimination? And
Uh, the specific link. This the two just now yang we discussed earlier
all
to
right.
differentiate discrimination in between highest and lowest, and
Uh-huh.
difficulty number is about number.
All right.
And how to link it?
Ashraf, any ideas?
Hmm. Relationship. What I understand is maybe discriminatory index focus on student,
All
difficulty
right.
index focus on questions.
Both focus on, okay, you get the data from students' performance, but in both we are focusing on the quality of the questions, the items. But for me, I will look at the discrimination first.
Okay.
Okay, discrimination. If it is high, then I'm not too worried about the difficulty. All right. So if the discrimination is high and the difficulty, it is, let's say, 0.6. Okay, discrimination is 0.4, which is high, actually very high, highly discriminating. So now I know that from
Good
this
question.
from the 60% of students who are able to answer the question, majority of them are
Good
good
Student.
group.
students. Yeah. Okay. So the majority of these people are the good students. If the discrimination is low, 0.1, there's not much difference between the good students and the poor students. Only a difference of 0.1. Okay. So difficulties is 0.6. So I know from this 60% of students who got it right, the number of good and bad students are almost equal
Almost
because it's
equal.
this
Yeah,
is
to
near
zero.
zero, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close to zero. If it is negative here, discrimination, then
Tengok.
I know that from this group,
More
more of
poor
this,
student can answer.
Poor student.
yeah, more of these are the poor students rather
Okay.
than
Okay.
the good students. Okay,
Makes sense.
and usually you will see if the discrimination is low, close to zero, huh? Close to zero, then the difficulty would be uh, either very low difficulty. The question is very difficult or
Easy.
very easy. Huh?
Mm.
Okay. If very easy, everyone can answer that question. So the number of the good group and the poor group will be the same, isn't it?
Yeah,
Hmm.
Huh?
Is it?
understand.
So we say the discrimination is low because the question is too easy. Therefore, we ask ourselves, what's the purpose of us asking this question? Then, so maybe you can,
The quality test.
yeah, maybe you can give feedback. Maybe this question was too easy. However, don't forget, item analysis just points out items that needs consideration. If you get the answer from the author, no, I think this topic is very important. I want to know whether all students know this or not, and I'm very happy that everyone can answer this question. So you say, okay, fine, no problem. Eh? So we do not follow the item analysis and say item analysis says that this no, item analysis just helps us to point out possible problems, but the one who have the last say is the content expert. And especially in difficulty. If because why? Because in our exam is the criterion reference. So if all the students meet the criteria, all the students were able to answer the question, then we say no problem. Huh? Although we ask them again, are you sure you want to ask this question? Because it seems to be too easy. Okay. But if they insist, yes, I'm sure I want to ask this question, then you say, okay, fine. So we look at the outcomes, learning outcomes, and things like that. We say if let's say the question asks something which is reasonable and important, and everybody was able to answer, then it's okay, even though the discrimination is low and the difficulty is high. Okay.
Understand.
So don't use the item analysis is not the king or whatever. We just use it as a tool, right?
Betul lah.
uh, it possible to flag or to identify possible issues. However, if we ask the content expert or the question author, like in this case, your question was too easy, everybody was able to answer. Are you sure this question is asking important area? If he says yes, and he's able to justify, look, this is the learning outcome, and I'm asking this question, and then okay, we say no problem. Yeah? However, if the discrimination is negative, then it's difficult to justify. We say, how come your question or the good students are not able to answer? But then maybe, and I think we need to reword this question, or I think we need to ask something else, or I think we need to make sure there's no leak in the question or whatever, things like that. Okay. All right. So
Little
difficult.
what?
Yes. Yes.
Just want to clarify, make sure I
Mm-hmm.
got it right.
All right.
The one that we rank, for example, 100 student, before
Yep.
we doing this discrimination and difficulty index, we rank them first,
Yes.
right? So
Right.
we use the same marks of the paper, right? The item that we want to analyze, the item
Yes.
inside the paper that they got marked, not
Yes.
overall ranking from
No.
semester.
No. No. No.
Okay,
No. No.
on the
No.
specific ni. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Betul.
Okay. Yes.
This index can be used for CR and SR question, right? I mean,
Okay. Good question. Uh, the most of the textbooks explain about item analysis, and this is for SR kind of questions.
Hmm.
Uh, However, you still can use or get item analysis, let's say for essay, you instead of how many getting it correct for difficulty, you can use the mean mark for that question. The mean marks for question 1 for all students was let's say the maximum mark is 10. Okay, so the mean mark was 8.5. So 8.5 over 10, that's 0.85. You can imagine the min marks.
Okay.
So we can say 0.85 the min marks for candidates who answer this question. So this is maybe towards the easy side.
For difficulty index for
For
this.
difficulty, for discrimination, you can correlate the marks the students get for that answer. So let's say you have question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, and you have total marks of the exam here. So you have the students marks here and total marks here. You can correlate this with this. However, you must make sure in the analysis, in the total marks, you must take out the marks for this question. Can you follow me? If not, it will be high because it is correlating to itself. Let's say you want to correlate question 1 with the total. So the total must be question 2 until question 4.
Okay.
You exclude question 1. Right? So you want to correlate question 2. So you correlate question 2 marks with question 1, 3, 4. Okay. So in a way, we still can have. Okay, that brings me to the current way in which discrimination index is calculated is no longer using this good group, poor group one. Now they are using more sophisticated. Usually they're using the point by serial correlation because computers are doing it nowadays. Okay, and usually they put in the software in the printout PBIS, point by serial correlation.
This
So
is for both SR, CR, Dr. Fuad.
for SR, for SR.
For SR, for SR.
Okay. So where do you find this item analysis information? Most often, you go to the software which is used to scan the results. You ask your office, where do they scan this MCQ? And they say, okay, we scan it using this scanner. It's connected to this computer. Then you explore the software which has been installed there. You will find the item analysis there. Almost all, I think all software which scans the multiple choice question will print or is able to have will have. I think I'm almost sure that all software will have item analysis inside it. You just have to know where to look for it. And okay, I'll show you the actual marks, the actual item analysis. This is in
So we don't really need to know the calculation on the point-based serial correlation.
No. The computer does that. Okay.
Doctor, sorry.
Hold on.
What's the
Yeah,
purpose
sure.
of having this index? Because the exam is already over. Are we trying to adjust the passing mark? Is it?
All right. Good question. Hold on. Let me find one example first. Exam unit 20. Is this the one? Okay. All right. This is an example of a printout. Item analysis printout by question. Usually they will give you so many options, right? The report by student. These are students and the percentage, the detail graphs or whatever. Okay, item analysis. All right. Okay, but what we're interested in is this one. Okay, no, not this one. My God, I've lost it. Hold on. Student statistics, class frequency, test statistics, student condense. This is one which shows the indices. Okay. So what we have here is that it shows student question by question, not student by student. Okay. So we have soalan 1, question 1, question 2, question 3, and so on and so forth. Can you read this a bit more?
Can we send?
Okay. Right. So this happens to be a single best answer. Okay. So for question 1, for example, the correct answer is B. Okay. And here usually they will tell you
How
this is
many
the correct
people?
answer and how many percent. The percentage of candidates choosing A, choosing B, and here the majority of students know that the answer is B. Only 11%. And okay, for this question, only 3 options, A, B, C. E and E is not used. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Zero.
Okay. So we see that that information is available and correct group responses. So here in this software, it doesn't tell you this difficulty index. It doesn't say that. It only tells you correct group responses. No. We must be able to interpret, this is the difficulty index because this is the total, how many got the correct response. It still gives you the upper 27 performance, lower 27 performance. Okay, but what we interested is this one. This is the total. This is how many percent of students were able to get it right. Okay, but as you can see, this is 80.16%. So if you are more familiar with decimals, this will be
0.8.
yeah 0.816. So this is quite an easy one. Okay, and it says there point by serial. This is what?
Discrimination.
Discrimination index. Correct. So 0.1 is quite low. Why? So now you know among this 80% of candidates here,
Apa law both can answer. So easy question.
Yes, it's quite an easy because this is an easy question. 80%, more than 80% were able to answer. So that 80% includes both the good students and the bad students. Only a bit more of the good students here.
Hmm.
All right.
Understand.
And you look here. Sorry, Ashraf. There's one negative here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So more bad student can answer.
Lower 20.
However, don't get excited. This is negative 0.05. It's nearly zero.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah lah, di tengah-tengah.
Okay, nearly zero. And you see the total number of candidates is not that high. 23.02, 0.2.
Hard question.
Hmm.
This is a
Even
very,
good student
very
cannot.
difficult question. Even the good students cannot answer. And just 23% got it right. And from the 23%, almost equal number are good and bad students. In fact, a bit more of the bad students. All right. So we have a look here. This tells us something interesting. The
Oh, the
the correct
distractor.
answer is C.
See.
Correct answer is C.
Hmm.
However, this majority of them answer A or B.
Hmm.
So we wonder why.
Hmm.
If the discrimination is positive, then we might be very happy because even though it's difficult, the good ones are the ones who are able to answer are the good students. But
Hmm.
here, it is misleading. It is confusing even the good students.
Hmm.
Okay, so we must have a look at the questions and ask again. Uh, is there a possibility to actually B or C is actually true the best answer? Or is the overall is so difficult that those who get this correct are actually the ones who tembak, who apa guessing.
Guessing lah.
Or maybe a
Guessing.
very
Lah.
good distractors.
Um, if they are very good distractors, Farhana, they must distract the poor students and
Yeah.
not the good students as well. That's a good distractor. They
Yeah.
distract poor students and they let the good students answer. But here, it is distracting both good and bad students. So it's
I think
not
it's
doing its
confusing
job
lah.
actually.
It's confusing.
Okay. So you have a few theories. Maybe it's confusing. Maybe blah. Maybe. Then you look at the item again.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay, and you give this information to the question author. And if you want to reuse this question in the future, you must send it back to edit again. You send to the author. I'm sorry, this not performing very well. Can you sort of you give the possible reasons and ask them to write again, and the question will then come again for vetting and will be reused again in the future to test whether it's getting better or not. So that's the purpose of item analysis actually, Ashraf, mainly for banking of questions to be used later. Understand?
Hmm.
However, there is one use for the current exam is that when
Check eliminate.
we yes, when we initially scan the question, the answers, we get this data. We roughly go through and have a look. Is there a possibility of wrong answer key?
Hmm.
How do we know that? When the question is very difficult and
With difference.
negative discrimination.
Hmm.
Then you say, is there a possible so you have a look at all those questions yang which is having that kind of index. Then you call the item content experts, the content
Hmm.
experts, and confirm. Are you sure this is the answer? Or sometimes the clerk in the office who is scanning, they make a mistake. Instead of A, they put in B. So if you find such a situation, you have to re-enter the answer key and rescan. Okay, so that's what we call the key valid the oops, sorry. We call that step key validation.
Hmm.
It must be done as soon as you get the data, before the data is then input into the computer for further, the MCQ will be combined with the essay, everything, right? So before it gets combined, you must make sure everybody agree, and then we proceed. If not, we have to rescan the marks after correcting the answer key. All right. So let's say we look at a few other. Okay. This information is helpful to look at distractor functioning. All right. What we say is that those who are less than 5% is not, we call it dysfunctional. Dysfunctional distractors. So here, are there any dysfunctional distractors? This is one. This is one. This is one. So quite a
A
few.
lot, yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
1.79, 0.79.
Okay. Ah. So you can have a statistic later on and say why uh, this is three options. Okay, we did this because we know that making 5 distractors is a problem, but even making 3 options, then also we still having a number of dysfunctional distractors. So
There's
actually
zero
item
there.
writing, nobody pick up this
Hmm.
item, this option. They know, even the poor students, they know that is not possible to be correct. And almost everyone has picked up this 91%. Okay, so only 7% the poor ones getting this. What is the discrimination?
Must be very high.
No, it's
Oh,
0.2.
4.2. Mm.
Ah, it's quite understandable because almost everyone is here, Farhana.
Mm.
So maybe only the poor ones really don't know, and this is here.
Hmm.
And B is not doing its job. It is not distracting at all.
0.
Okay. Again, another one. So now we know that when we write single best answers, one of the most critical things is to come up with good distractors.
Mm.
And it's not easy. I think you really need experience being with students. You know their thinking process, and you know what are their misconceptions and things like that. And that one you test in the exam. Okay. So if sometimes the lecturer is happy, oh, I've written that, and when they've put the correct answer, then they say, okay, then just write something for the distractors. No, because the distractors must do their job. If not, the question is not functioning well.
Better.
Yeah.
How many students that we need in minimum requirement for to be able to
Ah,
do this? Because
good question.
Mm.
Okay.
let's say just me
Me.
and Fana, then 50-50 cannot lah.
No. I think if only two of you, I cannot do item analysis. Uh, if I'm not mistaken, in the big book, the thick book, which you only get the chapter 1, it mentions that you need actually at least 150 students.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, However, he says if you have around 30, you can still look at the item analysis, better than nothing. But please remember that the values can be a bit inflated.
Hmm.
Okay. Uh, okay. So that's the function of item analysis. So you can see that actually item analysis Oh, where's my note just now? Is it here? Okay. Item analysis is ideally done in a situation where you have the item bank. Okay. So you test and then you do the item analysis and then you say you will have good items with acceptable values, then this one will go to the bank and will be reused. The ones with problem items will go for re-editing. Oh, why you say re? We go for editing lah. We go for editing or editing lah. We put as editing. We send back to the author and suggest some changes or whatever, and then it goes back to the bank for a test. Okay, and for really poor items, it gets
Eliminate lah.
rejected. Yeah. So then item analysis would be meaningful. So you need to have this good bank. Okay. Oh yes. Actually, you don't. There's. Let's see. Hold on. Can you see this or not? People have given guidelines actually how to look at item analysis. Okay, and this is in the same book, in the same thick book. Okay, where he gives a guide. Can I write? Oh, I can write. Okay. He says we can divide items into several types. Type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, type 5, type 6 by the difficulty and discrimination indices. Okay. So the ideal item is regarding difficulty is not too easy, not too difficult. Is between 0.6 to 0.9. Okay. Meaning for him, lower than 0.6 is difficult. Right? Okay. And the discrimination is more than 0.15. I mentioned just now 0.2, right? So, but for Downing, he's take it at 0.15. You can change, no problem. Okay. So according to him, with this combination, it's an ideal item. Moderate difficulty, high discrimination. However, if the item falls the same difficulty, but not very discriminating, less than 0.15, it's type 2, poor discrimination. However, he says if it's too easy, above 0.9, then we say disregard. Yes, discrimination, whatever discrimination you get, because it's too easy, not worth asking. High performance items usually not very discriminating. Okay. And if it is difficult, less than 0.6, and also very discriminating, it says here, difficult but very discriminating. And if it's difficult but not discriminating, difficult and non-discriminating, and the last one is interesting. This is difficult and low or even negative. It says signifies a key error. Key error meaning the answer should be something else. So he suggests that we keep type 1 and also type 4. Okay. Type
Mm.
4, he says, we can keep the more of type 4 items in the exam, the higher will be the reliability, but you must, the results will be skewed because it's difficult. Because it's difficult. Oh,
Mm.
sorry, it's skewed to the this way, I think. Lower
Mm.
marks. However, it is very discriminating, and you will expect those who score in the exam are the good ones. And this is ideal, the ideal items. Okay. And these items, item type 3, can send for editing. Okay. And he says we discard type 2 as well as type 5. These are the ones he says we just reject. Or maybe I don't know, up to us lah. I mean, this is just some arbitrary standards. He says. So he says if you prefer, you can raise this or reduce, or this one you can reduce a bit more or whatever. Maybe you say 0.5 to 0.9 or whatever, no? And you can still adjust, but the idea is there. So you can use this if you want to classify your questions into these various types, type 1, type 2, type 3, so that you know which ones are okay, can send in the item bank, which ones we need to send back to the department to be edited, which ones I think we just reject. Okay, so there are guidelines. Okay, I think it's almost 2 hours. We take a break for 10 minutes. Are there any questions?
So at the
No,
end
so
of
far.
what we want to do in developing question, we want to see
Baik,
a moderate or a moderate difficulty and high discrimination. That is our purpose of having a question.
Yes, that is our guideline. This is a good question. It's not too difficult, not too easy, and it discriminates. The higher the discrimination, the better. Okay. However, like I said before, bear in mind that our situation is a criterion reference. So sometimes it is too easy, but still we need to include that because of the topic, for example, right? But you can argue that can you reword, make it more challenging, and instead of just asking, you say maybe the answer is very obvious. Everyone can know the answer, even if they you take someone from the street, you show this, they will know the answer and things like that. So there's always room for improvement. I mean, but don't just say the item analysis tells me that this is bad. Now you don't say that. You say, the item analysis has suggested some problems with this item. Can we have a look? And if they still say no, 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 I think uh, don't win one battle, but you lose the war. That's one saying, I think. Sometimes we have to lose a few battles, but at the end we win the war. I don't know whether I'm making sense or not. Okay. Sometimes kita kena berkalah, apa kata, mengalah kan.
Mana?
Tapi towards the end, people will slowly get the idea. It takes time lah, these things. Okay. Any other
Betul, betul.
things?
When this like item analysis started, is already a long thing or is a new thing?
Interesting question. When I read it, the history, it started around the 1940s.
Oh,
1940s, or
Wow.
rather during
interesting fact.
World War II.
Oh,
Why? Because
the
at that
machine is it?
time the US Army
Mm-hmm.
wanted to get more people into the army because of the war.
Oh,
So during the intake, they apply this apa panggil screening test,
Oh,
mm-hmm.
or intake exam, we call it,
Entrance exam.
Entrance exam, yes, entrance exam, something like that. And
be sent to
therefore, and they use multiple choice questions. And therefore, they need something to help them to know whether the multiple choice questions are helping them to pick good candidates or not, good people for the war or not. And then was the birth or the starting of the item analysis. At that time, the difficulty index, they prefer difficulty of near 0.5. Why do you think so?
near.
They need someone strong staff.
The difficulty they don't want difficulty of nearing one, or they don't want it nearing zero. It's in the middle. Why in the middle? You think? Because if they use in the exam all or almost all of the items difficulty is near halfway 0.5, in the result they will get a nice
Oh, number distribution lah.
a nice curve.
Okay.
Yeah, so that they can pick the good ones and blah 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 blah. Okay, if like we discussed now, difficulty majority of the items are near here 0.9, which is too easy. Then I don't know, the curve would be
Skewed.
To the right.
would be like this, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will get high marks. If here, then it will be like this.
Yeah.
Okay, but they want the curve to be like this. But for us, this is norm reference. This is norm reference. They want to get the best from the candidates, the best candidates. For us, we have our criteria, so that's why we say it shouldn't be too easy or too difficult. So we give a range, right? Difficulty. If you read other books, it says 0.2 to 0.8 is acceptable.
Quite big.
Yeah, bigger range. If you use the guide just now, it's what did you say? More than 0.6 to 0.6 to 0.9, isn't it? So you have various kinds of ranges from various people. So we just use our judgment lah. All right, that's about it regarding item analysis. You gonna want to take a break?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So we meet again at what? 10:15. No, 11:15.
Okay.
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 Toroj also. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rajafar.
All right.